Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer and welcome to my daily 10 a.m. video. Thank you for tuning in. This video is shocking. You know me, I do a lot of digging. I was looking at some older articles, just articles from the past years ago, and just seeing what they were talking about, and I found the craziest article. This article was written in 2016, February 25th of 2016, and they posted an article talking about that we were years from running out of silver. There was going to be a silver crisis by 2020. And they showed supply and demand graphs. They showed the increasing demand with all these different things, and they came up with the year 2020. You know what, folks? They were exactly right. 2020, the U.S. Mint ran out of American Eagles for the first time ever. In 2020, that's when these premiums started building on these coins because silver is scarce. 2020 is when the supply and demand chain got disrupted. That was the year. It is insane to think how accurate they were with this prediction. Imagine right now, putting a prediction out, in 5 years in the future. So let's say, what if I put out an article saying by 2027, this would happen, but not 2028, not 2026, but 2027 because of my calculation. That's what they did. And I'm interested to see. I didn't really dig into the numbers because I wanted to kind of explore this with you as we go on. I didn't want to read the entire article, so it's going to be fun to see what they were talking about, see how accurate they are with some of the stuff happening today. And that's the coolest part, is since they're talking about this from a perspective in 2020, we can see and we obviously know what happened and what didn't. So this is going to be a very interesting article. Make sure you like the video. I would love to hear your insight on this. Anything you want to comment on that you found was interesting, or whatever. It definitely supports the video, but I'd also want you guys to participate as well. So the link to this article will be in the description. I'm also doing a 46K giveaway if you want a chance to win some free silver shipped straight to your front doorstep. The link is in the description for the entry video. So, world is years away from running out of silver. The global silver market could face a deficit of 126 million ounces by 2020 and could send silver prices surging. And another thing is, they didn't know about COVID, right? That's the craziest thing as well. So, as the market fixates on the price of oil and other real assets, a dramatic scenario is building in the silver market. More than 2 billion ounces of silver have disappeared from the market over the last 10 years, and we could be facing an annual shortage of over 100 million ounces by 2020. Not only is demand for silver surging and annual supply growth going nowhere, but much of our available silver is being buried in public landfills. And that's because it's a major component of batteries, CDs, circuit boards, and other electronics. People are literally throwing their silver in the trash, right? Gold is used for jewelry, so it's recycled, rescrapped. It stays in circulation. It's recirculated. Silver, it's thrown away. So all the silver that gets dug up, never going to see it again. Most of us know that, though. I've talked about that on this channel. But silver demand is surging and cannot be stopped. And think about, that was back then. Think about today. Think about today, what demand is like. This was years before Wall Street Silver, when they have hundreds of thousands of members, new stackers within the last couple of months. But anyways, I'll stop making side notes. But even as our supply of silver disappears from the market, demand is building every year. And by the way, I got to say one more thing. There's a direct correlation between silver price and silver demand. When silver demand is going up and people aren't selling it when they buy it and hold it, the price goes up. And the demand is only getting higher and higher. If you look at a chart from silver demand to prices, it's exact. So we know that silver is going to be needed more and more, not only from the industrial sector, but also individuals. So we can almost guarantee that silver is going to go up. And that's only one. That's only one little fact. That's only one little example of why silver is so bullish. But anyways, demand for silver is mostly up from three important categories: investment, jewelry, and industrial uses. These three categories make up 95% of silver demand, and they are all growing at a stronger rate every year. Demand for all three major uses of silver have increased over the 5 years since 2009. But the real story is in the growth in investment and industrial uses. And this was 2016. They didn't know about the Green New Deal. They didn't know that every automobile company would be going electric by 2030 or whatever. They didn't know about any of that. So it's happening, and it's even more extreme than they knew. So when they're talking about central bankers rushing around the world to print money to cover spending, destroying the real value of currencies, demand for silver coins and bars has jumped at an annual pace of 17.5% over the period. The surge in investor silver demand as a safe haven asset is nothing new. When the US dollar lost more than half of its value from 1971 to 1981, the price of silver rose fivefold. Demand of silver coins jumped 63% to a record 65 million ounces in 2008 as the global financial system collapsed. And that was 2008 that happened, right? Credit financial crisis. 3 years later, $50 silver in 2011. The market meltdown sent silver prices up 37% from 2008 through 2010. So global silver demand going up. So you can see jewelry is going higher, investment is going higher, industrial and other. And the graph is still going up. 2021, I think the SLB did about 1 billion ounces, and I think they dug up 800 or 900 million, something along those lines. So and back here, we're talking about scraping by 600 million. So it's definitely up, hundreds of millions of ounces. So while the annual pace of growth in silver demand for industrial uses has been more a modest 1.9%, more than 57% of total demand goes to industrial production. Silver is used in production process in nearly every industry, from electronics to home building and medicine. Demand for silver in photovoltaics, which is PV, which is in solar panels, is bounding higher. 7% in 2014, up 99% since 2009. Even slower growth in demand amounts to huge additional physical demand, more than 11 million ounces since 2015. So the growing industrial need is an urgent demand. While people may be able to substitute their jewelry demand for silver with another metal, and investors may be convinced to sell at higher prices, industrial demand is non-negotiable. The growing need for silver in our industry, or the industrial sector, will not be stopped. And we're headed into a new digital era. We're in this new advanced civilization. Think of like sci-fi movies. Everything's digital and flying cars, and that's all silver. Silver's the main component in all that. But do you think in 20, 30 years, when all this sci-fi stuff is happening, do you think we're going to have enough silver for all that? We're already short. It's already scarce. How is that going to work? The price of silver will be so high because it's going to be the most critical asset in the world. In past, sales of silver holdings from governments and scrap could fill the gap between higher silver demand and slow growth in mining. The U.S. government alone dumped more than 5 billion ounces of silver onto the market since World War II to keep prices subdued. And that's just a perfect, that showcases right there silver price manipulation. The growth in investment demand over the last 5 years means nobody wants to sell their scrap silver, reducing the annual supply from scrap by 33 million ounces. So I don't want to go over all this. I want to go over, more of we all know a lot of this stuff. So the bigger story in the supply picture, though, is the complete sellout of government holdings. These governments around the world sold 44 million ounces of silver in 2010, supplying more than 4% of the market, keeping the price from rising. Governments have all but sold out their entire silver holdings, and we've now lost an important source of supply. Government silver holdings have fallen 75% to 78 million ounces from over 316 million ounces in 2005, right? Banks, they don't like silver. Banks hate silver. They love gold. They're going to call silver the rebellious metal, the devil's metal, gold's little cousin. That's a bear market. But silver is a direct threat to the dollar. If people start transferring their money out of fiat into precious metals, what is that going to do to banks? Right? Think about it. They want you pegged to the dollar. Because if you are pegged to the dollar and the dollar's collapsing, that means you end up in debt. And when you're in debt, you're a slave to the system. It's a power control move. If you start transferring your money into silver and taking control of your wealth, you're taking the power away from them. And they don't want that. So anyways, they're holding on to what little silver stockpile is left for when the silver crisis erupts into higher prices. So we see mining is the blue going up, government sales is going down, scrap is going down, and hedging is going up. It's going up. So yeah, it makes sense though, right? Government sales are selling less, scrap is going down because nobody's scrapping it anymore, and then hedging is going back up as well with mining. So the disappearance of supply from government sales and scrap has put the entire weight of silver supply on mine production, and the outlook for mine production is not good. And I've been talking about this for years now. Miners do not care about silver. They're looking for gold, lead, zinc, copper, stuff that's going to put a pretty penny in their pocket. Say that 3 times fast. But it's true. If silver is found as a byproduct by accident, they do not want to look for silver, and they don't. As the price of silver and other metals has come down over the last few years, miners have drastically pulled back on their development spending. Nearsighted mining executives have cut hundreds of billions from development plans in order to protect cash flow. This represents the bottom of a cycle that gets repeated every 10 years without a fail. Mining boom causes production to increase and prices to come down, which leads to cuts in development spending. Existing mines are tapped out and fewer new mines are developed, leading to a steep drop in mine production, which leads to surging prices. Not only is the total supply of silver in question, but the sources of mining supply are not nearly as stable as you might think. More than 80% of the world's mining supply of silver comes from just 9 countries, 7 of which considered less developed emerging markets. That's crazy. So yes, we have Mexico, Peru, China, Chile, Australia. Obviously, Mexico and Peru alone make up the majority. And they got hit hard from this situation, right? Because mines were shut down when they opened back up. There was, safety precautions, limited workers, 6 feet distancing, all that. And then supply disruptions because borders were shut down, so you couldn't transfer the silver anywhere across the world. So that really messed up the global production. But I mean, and this is crazy because we know, I talk about this stuff all the time, and when I say these numbers, when I say this information off the top of my head, I'm not making it up, folks. I really, because I do see people who just think I'm just throwing some BS out or don't know what I'm talking about, But you can fact check me on anything I say. Please do, because I want people to understand that, I've been covering daily articles on silver for the last 6-7 years. Every day skimming through 5, 10, 15 articles. It's not something that you just would do if you don't have a strong passion. And I'm putting out 3 videos a day, and I feel more excited, and this is the most fun I've been having making videos in a long time. Making more videos, that's crazy, but it's just how it is. But anyways, Most of these countries, especially those in Latin America, have been slammed by falling currency values and plunging oil prices over the last year. Besides cutting back on overall development spending, miners are getting out of risky markets like Mexico, Peru, Russia, where government resource taxes could be going up to cover budget deficits. So the volatility in mining and employment almost always leads to large-scale protests and mine closures as governments fight with mining syndicates over profits. Just the 15 largest silver mines produced 20% of the world's mining production in 2014, with all but three of the mines in politically risky and unstable countries. So we have peak silver and surging prices. The silver market is perennially in deficit, with demand outstripping supply by millions of ounces, and that's nothing new, right? I think supply was up 3% this year, which is, not much, but it is interesting though that even the U.S. Mint, the Mexican Mint, the Australian Mint, the Perth Mint, none of these mints can keep up or can find enough silver to make these coins. That's why they're having limited supply numbers. So things are already severe. They're not going to portray it that way, but they did admit it publicly in an article that there is a silver shortage, and they said that word, which people know that word is the word that you don't want to say if you don't mean it literal, because it can be taken out of context or taken the wrong way. But they said there is a silver shortage, and there is, and things have not even got started yet, ladies and gentlemen. Right, the Green New Deal hasn't even started effect yet. Like, it's crazy. But anyways, so silver supply from mining has peaked, and the market won't be able to balance itself within the government sales or scrap as it's done in the past. Investors are already rushing in to buy it and hoard their silver in anticipation of higher prices over the next years. And it's crazy because they're kind of talking about what times would be like now, and they are so right. But times are so much more extreme as well, because they could have never guessed what was going to happen in 2020. The silver crisis has already manifested in coin production, but it's about to get much worse. The U.S. Mint announced in 2010 it had run out of silver bullion and was forced to suspend production of Eagle proof coins. And wow, looks really similar to today, right? Silver supply cannot keep up with demand. 2011, $50 silver supply versus demand balance, way up, is around zero. And then, $15 silver over this decade, silver price per ounce is $15, like I was saying. And then look at the silver supply. It's interesting to see how they move. So if these trends in silver supply and demand continue, we'll face a dramatically worsening scenario in just a few years and could run out of silver by 2020. Silver demand is set to increase to 1,466 million ounces by 2020 on its 5-year pace of growth. Even if miners can continue to eke out growth, an unlikely outcome on reduced mine development, the supply of silver is only expected to grow 1,079 million ounces through 2020. So, I'm not going to go into all the details of the numbers, but let's look at this chart. Silver shortage by 2020. So they have 2010, 1,000 million ounces. Then they have 2012, 1,200 million ounces. And this is above ground silver, by the way, the green. And then silver supply. So silver demand is the blue, silver supply is the red, and then the green is the above ground available silver. So let's take a second to look at this. So silver demand is around 1,000 million ounces 2010, and there's only about 1,100 or 1,100 million ounces of above ground silver. But the silver supply is right in between the demand and the above ground silver. So you could see how tight knit that would be. And then 2011 happens with $50 silver. So obviously things are going to there's going to be a gap. But look at the gap nowadays, right? The gap started in 2011 But look at this gap right here. Nowadays, we have silver demand at 1,400 million ounces, and the above ground silver supply is in the negative. And it's pretty accurate. Like, what were the Silver Institute's numbers? Man, I can't remember. And this excludes ETF storage, but, and that was 1 billion ounces. What was it? The demand was 800 million. So it was around here. So demand is this year was where supply they guesstimated would be. And it's looking like supply, I forget what the above ground silver supply is, but I know it was up 3%. The global silver market could be facing a deficit of 126 million ounces by 2020. And that demand will have to be filled somehow, right? And that's kind of why we're seeing the premiums. The premiums are higher because silver's scarce. So if they're going to sell you silver, you have to pay a higher price, right? They're not just going to give it out even if spot price is supposed to be sold at 1 ounce. The growing problem of scarcity will send silver prices surging to convince investors to sell their holdings to industrial users, right? And instead of spot price rising, the premiums are. So yes, prices are rising, but not in the way that they thought. They thought spot price would be rising as silver is more scarce, but right now we're seeing the premiums rising because silver is scarce, but spot price is staying the same. So, and it's interesting to think about because, and this was kind of what I was talking about in my last video, because look at it like this. If you have a whole bunch of American Eagles that you bought over the last several years for $15, you could list that coin on eBay right now for $37, but spot price is only $26. So if you take away the thought of spot price, you're still getting huge profits for your silver because it's scarce. So they are right if you just don't think about spot price, because spot price is irrelevant at the end of the day when nothing goes by it anymore. If you buy silver and it has nothing to do with, it's not even close to spot price, and you're going to sell it and it's nowhere near spot price, and what's the point of spot price? That's all for the SOV and stuff. So when we're talking about physical silver, the prices are rising already. The silver shortage will affect nearly every aspect of your life, causing shortages at higher prices in home goods, medicine, and industrial products. And the only way you can benefit is to add silver to your portfolio. And I definitely agree with that. If you don't own silver, then times are going to get hard. I don't want to scare people. I don't want to give out fear and all that. So I'm not going to talk about it too much, but you can't sugarcoat stuff when it's real. This is life. This is really happening. We are in the middle of a global, I can't say the word, but yeah, you can't live in la la land. We have to look at the reality of things, and we have to prepare, adapt, adjust, and face things as they are. And that's why I say there is no solution. There's only alternatives, and the only alternative is precious metals. Right? There's no solution to any of this. There's no solution to fix the dollar strength or any of that. No, it's going to collapse. The only thing we can do is take another course, which is precious metals. And that's the only other course when we're looking at things in a safe manner. Yes, there's crypto and stuff like that, which you could use, but I would use the profits of crypto to then reinvest into precious metals. I'm going to wrap this video up here. I thought this was a great article. I wanted to share it, and I thought this showed a lot of insight on how they figure out, or how they did figure out by 2020 that there would be, and you can see that they did the numbers, and they were pretty spot on. It's pretty crazy to think that, using data could foretell that accurately, even going off of assumptions to some degree. Investors make strategic decisions based off information, and they use this information, and you see what happened. Gamblers they speculate, they throw things out with the odds against them, hoping it sticks, and it usually doesn't. But we're investors, so we see the patterns, we see what affects the price of silver, and we are going with it because at the end of the day, silver is the only thing that we can guarantee looks extremely bullish. Nothing else does, not even Bitcoin. So yeah, the link to this article is in the description. My 46K giveaway entry video is in the description. I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.